Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Creating Synergy podcast. Today on the show, we have one of Australia's most influential businesswomen and entrepreneur, the exceptional Tammy Barton, founder and CEO of MyBudget, MyBudget Loans, and My Home Build. In today's episode, we will learn about Tammy's journey from a young entrepreneur starting MyBudget at a kitchen table, doing budgets for her friends and family, to a business that has thrived to an incredible 24 years, reaching over 34 million in revenue. We dived into the very heart of MyBudget's success and explored the innovative business model that has helped over 75,000 Australians get their finances in order. With a correlation of 1 in 3 people committing suicide due to financial stress each year, the positive impact that MyBudget has is not only financial, but has helped all these Australians mentally and emotionally. You could even say they're saving lives. We also deep dived into the delicate balance between work and family life, the importance of corporate culture, and Tammy opens up about how they dealt with a severe cybersecurity breach, and she shines a spotlight on supporting women in entrepreneurship by the Fearless Female Group. So without further ado, let's jump in and explore the remarkable journey of Tammy Barton. So welcome back to the Creating Synergy podcast. Today we have a very, very great human being on the show, described as one of Australia's most influential businesswomen and entrepreneurs, building a 34 million plus empire with MyBudget. Tammy Barton, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
I'm just going to rattle off a few little awards and recognitions that you've received over the years, just to kick off, just to let people know the caliber of person that we're speaking to. So Telstra South Australian Businesswoman of the Year Award, Smart Company Australia Top 30 Female Entrepreneur Award, League of Extraordinary Women Female Entrepreneur of the Award in 2015, 16 and 17, Startup Daily #1 Top Female Entrepreneur Under 40, Australian Financial Review 100 Women of Influence, International Business Times Australia Top 100 Women of Influence, Telstra South Australian Businesswoman of the Year, Telstra Business Owner Award, Australian Government Business Innovation Award, and EY Entrepreneur of the Year finalist. Not to mention you're on the Forbes Young Rich list for a while there, and amazing backstory and the amount of hard effort that's gone into receiving those awards. Well done and kudos.
Thank you. It's a bit embarrassing when you read them all out.
You shouldn't be embarrassed about your achievements, but for us to sort of understand your early context, or just to understand your context and how you kind of got to where you are today, I'd be super interested in understanding your background and your journey through your younger years.
Yeah, sure. Well, I grew up here in Adelaide, down south. My parents were quite young when they had me. So they were, my mum was 16 and my dad was 19, and 2 Irish families actually, but one family was Protestant, the other one was Catholic.
Yep.
And so my parents had to get married. They got married when they were pregnant with me in a uniting church, and then they had 3 other children after me. Mm-hmm. And I have a brother, Josh, who's number 3, who has Angelman syndrome. Okay. So it's a severe disability. It's chromosome number 15, but it's not genetic, as in passed down.
Okay.
So
what is
not in Josh's case anyway.
What does that mean?
So it just means that when Josh was formed in mum's uterus, the chromosome didn't form correctly.
Okay.
And ordinarily, when that happens, a woman might have a miscarriage.
Yeah. Okay.
But and in this case, that didn't happen, and my brother was born, and we didn't know that anything was wrong with him really until he was about 6 months old, and they thought, he's not responding the way that a normal baby should. And then when he was the age of 2, he was diagnosed with autism. Mm-hmm. And then it wasn't until mum was involved in a parent support group that she met another family that had an Angelman syndrome child, and Josh had very similar characteristics, this little boy Matthew. And so it was as simple as doing a test on Josh's chromosomes, and we saw that he actually had Angelman syndrome. Okay. So you can't ever take a diagnosis away. So he has Angelman syndrome and autism. But he's really an Angelman syndrome.
So what does that mean? Is that similar to autism, given that the fact
similar?
that... yeah. Okay.
Yep. So he's non-verbal.
Okay.
He won't and has never developed over the age of, say, a 2-year-old mentally.
Oh, really?
They love water. They're happy. You know, in a way, what I feel blessed about is Josh doesn't realise that he's different.
Yeah. Okay.
So he's very different, but he's like a big kid, basically. And he comes to my house. He comes for dinner every fortnight. And I think it's just so beautiful for my kids to see Josh and interact with Josh, even though he doesn't interact with them. But it just makes everyone feel so grateful for the life that we have and the abilities that we have.
Puts things into perspective.
So back to growing up, having Josh in our family meant that we weren't able to do a lot of things that other families would do. Simple things like we couldn't go out ever, basically, unless one parent went with us. We couldn't go out all together because you couldn't even take Josh to a park. He would literally run up to, if there's other people there, run up to them and he would take their food if they were having a picnic and grab their drinks. And it was pretty intense. We had our fridge was locked, our gates were locked, our pantry was locked up. You couldn't leave shampoo and conditioner in the bathrooms or in the one bathroom that we had, because he would just tip them out. He would just get in there. And so it was, I always thought, oh, how hard done by are we? Because I'd go to other people's house and see how normal households operated. Yeah. And I'd feel a lot more relaxed as well, because you couldn't even leave a drink out, because if he came and got it, he could just throw it on the wall. But what I realised, it was such a blessing, because going through all those different types of situations with my brother, simple things like going to the supermarket with him and him destroying, pulling things off the shelf and, it being in those stressful environments and someone walking past and saying to my 5-foot Irish mother, control your son, and then my mum flying off the handle and managing my sister. All of those situations, when I got to being an adult, everything in life seemed simple, seemed actually really easy and simple and not challenging, even though it wasn't simple and it was challenging. There was lots of things that came up. I felt like I was well equipped to deal with stressful situations because of
You'd built those calluses up, I suppose. Yeah.
That's right.
You were the eldest?
I was the eldest,
correct?
yeah.
Does that mean that you had to play a different part in your childhood? Like, you think about... normally the eldest is the bossy one, but, this time in your situation, you would have had to sort of almost step up really and quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, all of these things helped me become the person I am today. It helped me develop the business that I have today. Like, my dad is a builder and he ran his own business from home. And from the age of 13, I was writing out all his checks. I was reconciling his bank statements. I was doing a lot of things that other kids wouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
But that being said, because my parents were always so busy and distracted with my brother and my younger sisters, I got to be really independent at a really young age. I started working at Hungry Jack's when I was 14, so I could earn an income. And
Had to grow up quickly.
I got to, be independent and make decisions and not have anybody controlling me, which I think was a good thing. And I was heavily involved in sport. It played such a big part in my life, particularly basketball, but in primary school I had sport 7 days a week. And on some nights I did 2 things. I did something straight after school and then I went to club sport or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And I just absolutely loved it. And I don't even know how my parents managed to drive me around, drop me off, pick me up, and my sisters who also played sport and then have managed my brother as well. I mean, I look back now and I just go, wow. And they ended up getting a divorce when I was 17. But is there any wonder? Like, I think how that would have been so tough for them.
Yeah. Look, to be honest, when you're 16 and 19 and having your first child together and getting married, it did well to last, because I think about my brain when I was
Yeah.
at 16 years old. I wasn't thinking about getting married at any point, or even
Exactly.
or raising a child or four by the sounds of things, and one with a disability. So kudos to them for the
Yeah.
hard work. How are they going now?
Good. They're great. They're awesome. They're both remarried and repartnered and really, really happy.
Excellent.
But yeah, they're good.
Brilliant. So I want to touch on the basketball thing and the sport thing. This is something that is really close to my heart. I grew up playing a lot of sport, quite high level as a junior career, but it's team sport specifically in which I just absolutely believe is a fundamental in any child's life or young person's life. In regards to how it helps you build and develop relationships with people from all walks of life and all different cultures and all the above, and help you set goals and achieve goals and set targets and trainings and good habits and all the above. Do you believe, sort of reflecting, that sport was a big influence on your career and success to where you are today?
Massive influence because it takes discipline.
Mm-hmm.
If you're playing at a certain level, you need to turn up for trainings. You need to be, at the beach at 8 o'clock on a Sunday morning while all your friends are sleeping in after a big night.
Yeah, I agree.
But the teamwork, the camaraderie, the stakeholder management.
Yes.
I would never have known what stakeholder management was when I was, playing district basketball, but managing all the different types of personalities. You have people from all different walks of life.
Yep.
And then you're also managing up because you're managing your coach or your team manager. You're talking to your coach and team manager. So you're learning all these skills that are so valuable in life, and particularly in leadership and in business.
Yep, agreed. No, thank you for backing it up. I think I'm yet to find someone who says, "Nah, sport doesn't play a part." To me, it's paramount. If you've got young children, get them into some sort of sporting background, just to build those relationships and learn different,
And it's good physically,
Oh, absolutely.
right? And for your mental health. And
Absolutely.
Again, back then we didn't know any of that. I just did it because I liked it.
Did you always? I mean, you said you're doing some stuff with the old man, in regards to writing checks and doing some of the financials. Was there always an entrepreneurial streak in you as a junior? Were you always looking for ways to make the extra coin?
100%.
Yeah.
So, like when I was a little kid, it'd be a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning. Mum and Dad were still in bed asleep. I would be setting up a stall out in the driveway, making up signs, cardboard signs that would say stop, so people driving past would have to pull over. And then I'd say, would you like to buy something from my garage sale? I had lemonade stands where I made lemonade and sold that. And you iterate, right? So the first time I did the lemonade stand, I was using our glasses from the kitchen, but then people had to stand there and drink it because I had to give the glass back. And then you realise, well, that wasn't the best way of doing it.
Correct.
So next time I'm going to
Now I'm
have
going to wash them all and
take away. So
absolutely.
people can buy it and leave. I was like, this is awkward. Everyone has to stand here and scull their lemonade so they give me their glass back.
I'm wondering, as a junior, did you go in and wash the glasses, or did you just re-pour more lemonade in? Were people drinking out of used glasses?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's best that they don't know that. Yeah. No, brilliant. So what happens from there? So you obviously you've gone off to Hungry Jack's, you're getting work. What happens after school? Where does Tammy go? What do you do with yourself?
So I started studying. So I thought I was probably going to be an accountant, but I wanted to work full time and earn an income.
So you had the love for finance always there?
Love for finance, and it was just something I enjoyed. It came reasonably naturally to me. I'm not saying I'm a mathematician by any stretch of the imagination, but it just came easily to me and I enjoyed it. So, and it was just something that I knew how to do instinctively, I suppose. Yep. But I really wanted to earn an income and not have to rely on my parents, run my car. I wanted to be able to buy a house and do all of those things as well. So, so I started studying. I was still working at Hungry Jack's part-time. I got a job doing the books at a childcare centre near the airport at Export Park. So I was doing that a couple of days a week, and eventually I just applied for a full-time role doing trust accounting and thinking I can study at night. And so that's what I started to do, and it was in that role, and that was at a solicitor's firm on the parade in Norwood. where the managing partner said to me, could you also look after this small debt collection business that we own? It's pretty much just reconciling. It's part of the trust account staff, It's reconciling payments. And then I quickly realised actually it was calling client debtors and saying, what can you afford to pay back on your debt, and having those conversations. And it really quickly occurred to me that most people didn't know what they could afford to pay back, and they were earning really good money.
Yep.
And just still, or they would commit to something they'd say they could afford to pay something and then not commit to that. And so it was through those conversations I was thinking I need to refer these clients somewhere to get some help. And there wasn't anywhere. So I thought, well, I'll help them by putting a budget together. And then I also quickly realised that it wasn't just the budget. It's actually sticking to the budget. And that's not that easy to do. And so that's when my budget was born, essentially. And I quit my job and I was living off the bones of my bottom. But at that point, I'd bought my first house. So, I just was getting a lot of referrals. And I thought, and I adapted the old software Quicken to manage all the trust accounts. Yeah. And because I was getting all these clients, I was thinking I can't do this on my own. I need to really think about the system I'm using. So there must be something out there that I can license or buy. And back then, you had the discs. Yeah. You put that in the computer and there wasn't anything. No. So I thought, well, how hard would it be just to build something, from scratch? Yeah. Turns out it's reasonably hard. But
in those days,
when you're young, I think that's the beauty of being young, doing what I did or starting a business, is because you don't see all the risks. You think you're young. You can recover from anything, really, when you're young. And so then because I'd bought my house, it'd gone up a bit in value. I was able to borrow some money and invest in building the software. And really that gave me the platform to grow from an operations point of view and really just focus on getting the message out there.
Yeah. I remember, I'm not saying this from an age point of view, but I remember I've been watching you on TV for a long time, right? You're those MyBudget ads used to come up back in the day, and I remember thinking at an early age when I was a lot younger, why would anyone pay someone? Why would anyone in debt or in having trouble with their money pay someone to help them get out of debt? And so, can you tell us the business model that really worked for people back in those days? Because that was sort of something I kept going, why would you go there if they can't afford it? It kind of was contradictory. Obviously, my brain works differently now, but I'm interested to understand your model in the early days and how it sort of formed and grown.
So if you think about what we do practically, we put a budget together for somebody, but then we actually manage that budget. So their income comes into an account that we manage, and we pay all their bills, and so that their bills are paid on time, they pay down their debt, they create savings, and we automate all of that. So it's like you go into the gym, but someone else does the exercise for you, but you get all the benefit. That's what we do. So that is what we do. But the value of what we do is so much greater, and that is that you don't have to worry about it anymore. And when you don't have that mental load of worrying about your finances, is there enough money to pay your bills? And you know that that's all taken care of, you get to live your life and not worry about that stuff, and you can focus on all the stuff that you're good at, probably like your job and earning more income and your family. And that is the value of what we do, is that we're taking care of it for you. And I'll often say, well, you probably know how to cut your hair or shave
my hair.
Shave your hair.
I got no hair.
Well, that's probably a bad analogy, right?
I got on my beard, maybe.
But you know how to mow the lawns. Some people will pay for their lawns to be
100%,
mowed. Yeah. So just because I could cut my own hair,
I agree. Yeah.
Why? I want to go to a hairdresser.
Cleaning your house, same thing, right? It's a waste of time.
And it's exactly the same. Yeah. And it's not that people don't know how to do it. Yeah. It's not an education thing or don't. It's more so it's not the thing that excites them, and therefore it can fall by the wayside.
Well, I personally don't understand why I haven't come to MyBudget. I'm one of those people. I'm literally one of those people. It's just like, however I can find a way to get this done quicker so I can do more of what I want to do. And my
It's
wife,
smart.
my wife doesn't want to do the finance, look at the finances. I don't want to look at the finances. So yeah, maybe I might hit
We
you up
are
for
literally our client's financial partner
yeah.
for life.
Do you do, is it all the accounting as well, or is it just the
we don't
budgeting?
do the business accounting,
Yeah,
but
it's just
essentially,
like your own personal account, like people, individual accounting.
like mums and dads and individuals. I do, however, I do want to at some point, and I've been saying it for a long time, I do want to help businesses.
Yeah.
And it's not just with the cash flow management, it's actually with the financial modelling side of things.
Yeah.
I think there's a huge opportunity there. When I look at so many great businesses that don't make it, and a lot of the time, if they had modelled it out, they could have made different decisions, and it just helps, a tool to help you make good decisions.
Yeah. So explain, I read that you started this on your kitchen table, your parents' kitchen table. Is that correct? It
was my kitchen table at my house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So does that, is that, how did you go about getting client? Like, how did you go about getting your name out there? What did it all look like? Because we saw everyone who's got some memory saw the ads back in the day, right? But I'm interested in that. Obviously, those first 2 or 3 years, those ads weren't up on the...
It was all referral.
Yeah.
So like finance brokers, they had clients that couldn't get a loan, for example, because they were behind in payments, but they were earning good money, they would refer them on.
Yeah, wow.
Local accountants were referring clients on. Bank tellers were referring clients on. And so it was literally a bootstrap business, and it grew through word of mouth and referral. I took out a small office. I got secondhand furniture. I went down to the secondhand office furniture, got a secondhand reception desk.
Yep.
And nothing fancy. And I just stuck within my budget, literally, and just slowly grew and just went, okay, well, if I have this many clients, that means I need, to have an employee or 2 employees, and then modeled it out to say, if I have this many clients, this is what my budget for stationery should be. This is what my budget for this should be. And that's how the business started. And actually, I started with a business development manager, actually. I thought, okay, this is how I'm going to grow the business. And we weren't really getting any extra leads in or new clients. And someone rang up the 5AA, one of our clients, and 5AA talkback radio, and started talking about my budget. And next minute, my phone just started ringing. Our office phone started ringing off the hook. And I was like, maybe radio works. What if I took the salary of the business development manager who's not working out, and I just put it on radio? How would that go? And I realised quickly that 5AA wasn't going to be the place, because basically the demo was too old. I was having parents ring for their kids. So quickly I moved to Mix FM, and that same investment that I had in a person, I just put on the radio, and the phone just kept ringing and ringing.
Unbelievable.
And then I thought, I wonder what would happen if I went on TV. And so I started advertising on TV, only in the Oprah show. I exclusively advertised
Oprah
in
was on.
Oprah.
So a premium time slot, right? Yeah.
And then I transitioned to Dr. Phil.
Oh, yeah.
And then it was...
Does that mean I'm a Oprah watcher?
You probably were. I mean, who wouldn't want to watch Oprah?
Well,
She's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not going to admit it, but yeah.
And so that's how the business started to grow.
Right.
And as I got more clients, I had to learn to delegate. And it started really like I had a dictaphone. What would I say to clients? And I'd put it into the system. What questions did I ask that went into the system? So I systematize, it's not even a word. I put every single thing. I read The E-Myth.
Yeah.
Going back 18 years ago.
Yeah.
And then I just decided that was going to really help me by putting everything I possibly could into a system or a procedure, so that when I wasn't there, decisions could get made, because I had my daughter when I was 25, or almost 25. So I had 9 months really to get the business to a position where it could run for a while without me being there.
So you started, when did you start what age?
22.
22. So you had 3 years before your daughter was born, and then but before the scale started, you had 9 months to get. Yeah, wow.
Yeah. And then from
so
there,
it's pretty rapid growth.
Rapid growth. But what it did was it pulled me out from working in the business to working on the business. So I remember, when Maddie was a baby, being at the park, just pushing her in the swing, and she was asleep, and I didn't even realise. And I'm just reading all these books, and I'm thinking about, how do I grow this business? I knew nothing, so I had to learn everything. And I mean, we had the internet back then, but it was dial-up.
Yeah.
and there wasn't as much resource available.
Yeah.
So I was buying a lot of books and reading books.
I still prefer the old school method of buying and reading, but yeah.
Me too.
Like that's a remarkable story. The question here that's sort of going through my mind is you've scaled quickly, grown quickly, phone's ringing off the hook, you go on TV, doubles again, right? Why are people having so many issues with their finances? Why is it something that is so prevalent?
Well, I think if you look at the industry as a whole, there's no good system out there to help you manage your money, firstly. And secondly, particularly back then, it was so easy to get credit. And then thirdly, people's circumstances change in life. Things happen that are outside of their control.
Yep.
And all of a sudden they're not in the position they thought they were, but they had a lot of debt. And this is really where the business started, in that debt space. It's transitioned a lot more over the last 10 years to just really being like helping people achieve their financial goals more so than just paying down the debt.
Yeah.
But certainly in the early days, that was the driver for the business, was helping people to get out of debt and stop living week to week. And mainly that came down to the fact that people didn't have any savings. So when an emergency arose, you got nothing to fall back on, so you use a credit card. And you think, I'm going to pay that credit card off. And you might. But then something else, the electricity bill comes in.
You get a second credit card to pay the first one off, right?
And then it becomes a perpetual cycle, and then all of a sudden you're feeling financially stressed. And it's generally starts with something that's outside of your control. Your life's going along perfectly fine, you get into a car accident, or the hot water blows up, or you have a relationship breakdown, or you get sick for a while and you're not getting paid for 4 weeks. So you fall behind in your payments, and it's all because really you didn't have that money to fall back on. So that's what the budget gives you, that certainty and peace of mind. And us doing it for you means that you can be more disciplined, because you know my budget's taking care of it. I know when that bill comes in, it's going to get paid. And this is what I have to live off every week. And so that's what I'm going to live off of. And I've got my money going into savings. And so a lot of the time it's just life circumstances. Yeah. And other times it's people just really are not that interested.
How does the world, like, we're going down into the detail here, but something that sounds of interest to me is that I've always struggled with the idea of the budget because of the way my loan structures are with the house, like offsets and all the above. And I just go, well, I'll just throw everything in the offset. It makes more sense, doesn't it? Less interest.
Well, it does, but think about, particularly now the interest rates are higher, right? So there's probably a little more merit in that. But just think, because I hear this a lot.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, how much interest with the few $100s that was going to go to your electricity bill that sits in your account for a few weeks before you pay it out? So you will save a bit of money, definitely. Yeah. The trade-off is, though, that if you're not managing your money well, you could find yourself in a bit of difficulty. You could find that you don't have enough there to pay the bill.
Well, you just see the number keep getting lower and lower in your offset, right? Like
exactly. And it's particularly when people are using credit cards, because they're saying, I'm using the credit card, putting the money in the offset. How do you know what you're spending? Yeah. You just can't. Yeah. And so that is why having the discipline of having a budget makes all the difference. And the trade-off is, you're right, a little bit of interest off your mortgage, but put all your savings there. Offset all your savings against your mortgage. Pay your mortgage down. That's what the budget's going to be there for you to do. And it helps you get to make good financial decisions, right? So you say, I want this. This is what we do. We help people's lives turn out the way that they want them to, because the way in which you manage your money has a big impact on the way that your life turns out. So you might say, well, I like going out for dinner every single week. I definitely want to do that. And I definitely want to go on a holiday every year. And I don't mind if I have a mortgage for the next 20 years. Someone else might say, well, actually, no, I want to pay down my mortgage. I want to get an investment property because I want that for my children, or I want to send them to private school. And everybody's goals are different. And what that budget does is you model it out, and it shows you. You can go, okay, well, if I didn't have that car loan and I put that repayment towards my mortgage, this is what it actually means. And then it's not just the model. We actually do it for you. Whatever you want, however you model it, we're going to execute on that for you.
Yeah, so you give the scenarios.
Yep.
And then they choose which scenario and you manage it.
Yep.
Beautiful.
Just on that, a good analogy I like to use is think of Google Maps.
Yep.
And, when you open it up, you got the pin
Yeah.
and that drops where you are now. And let's say you put in the location of where you want to go. And I often use the analogy of when you're in, if you've ever done it, I've done it once. In LA, you can drive to San Francisco and you can either drive along Highway 1 or you can take the scenic route along the coast.
Yep.
So if you think about that pin being where you are today financially, and this is where you want to go, you can make the decision, do I want to go out for dinner every night and I'll get to the destination a bit later, or you can take the quickest path.
Yeah.
And that's what the visibility of the budget gives you.
That's how you design it.
Yep, that's exactly right.
So you've almost got a client for life, right, when these people sign up?
Yeah.
It's a great model.
It is a great model, and there's no like long-term lock-in with my budget.
It's just it's like, why would you go back to managing it yourself when someone else is doing such a remarkable job? Yeah, it's a great model. I'm just like, as you're talking, my head is pinging and everywhere, left, right, and center. But they often say that AI is going to be the death of the accountant. Are you fearful of where AI is, or are you looking into that for your business?
Definitely looking into it for our business. And I think there's two sides to every coin, right?
Yep.
Like you have to be a bit fearful about AI, getting into the wrong hands.
Yeah.
No
doubt. Yeah.
Because it's powerful. But the way I look at AI is if I can take a mundane task and have my people doing something far more value adding, then I think, why wouldn't we do that?
Yep.
And also the other advantage of AI is it can process so much more data, so much far quickly than a human, and it's then taking those insights and using our skills as a human, which is that creative side, that problem solving and being intuitive and saying, this is what the data's telling me, so I think this is what we should actually do, or these are the conversations we should have. So on one hand, it is scary, but on the other hand, it's coming. It's better to be on the front foot, understand it, embrace it, then you're not going to be, sideswiped by it, because who knows? Who actually knows what could happen in the future? I don't even want to try and predict.
I'm thinking from a business perspective, how many people in the team right now?
250, over 250.
Do you think that's stable? Do you think AI poses a threat?
I don't think so. Look, there might, because I think when one job is taken away, another one is created.
Something else.
Yeah, like we would be able to reinvest that time and energy into something that's going to add more value to our clients.
Yeah.
So it might be
or start a new
venture
or a new business.
Like at the moment, we're developing a bespoke personal loan product.
Yeah.
Now, we can use a fair bit of technology to help with the credit decisioning and the automation of pulling in information. I mean, that's a game changer.
Yeah. If you were to give advice to those who are struggling with their money, like we talked about it before, the KISS method, right? Keep it simple, stupid. What's the one thing that you would suggest to most people more often than not when managing their money?
Well, firstly, the number one thing is put a budget together so you know your position. It's going to help you make good decisions. That's starting point number one. And then,
so can we just elaborate on that for those who are listening in and may never have put a budget together? Budget is it as simple as this, right? While we're doing the KISS stuff, the KISS method. What am I making to what am I spending?
Correct.
Right? And then school fees, groceries, like you just got to account for everything.
That's right.
It's a tough job because I've tried to build a budget many a time, but I do not know the spending that my wife does. Do you know what I mean? Like, so she'll just, go down to the shop and all of a sudden she comes home with a bunch of shopping bags from Sportsgirl, whatever it might be. That's the part that I always struggle with. So how would you work through that as a family?
Well, I think it's a really good point that you raise. When a couple come together at MyBudget and they put the budget together. So they both have their own spending money. They can both one can go to Sportsgirl, the other one can go play golf or do whatever it is that they want to do with their spending money. but you come together and you literally get on the same page about
you
your
agree to it,
finances and
yeah.
what you want out of your life. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Like money is a means to an end.
Yeah.
Money, it's like, what do we actually want? We want to go on a holiday? Yeah. Or we want to pay off our unsecured debt, or we want to pay off our house. Is this what we want? Yep. So we agree on that.
Yeah.
And we make those payments. And then we actually go away and do it for you. You both have access to the account, but you're getting your own living money.
Yeah.
And everything that you have to pay is coming out of the budget anyway.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about that. You just have to worry about food, petrol, day-to-day living, and everything else is in the budget. Your holiday savings, when you go away, you just you transfer it over to
Wherever you need to.
wherever your bank account is.
Yeah.
And away you go. And you don't even have to worry about it. And then people stop fighting.
Yeah.
Relationships stay together because they're no longer fighting about money. It's a funny story, but one of our staff was over from Melbourne, and she was driving near our office that we had here in Adelaide and Glandore, but it was a 40-kilometre zone, and she didn't realise. And she got pulled over by the police speeding. She was doing 60, and she thought, I'm going to try and get out of this speeding fine here. And she started flicking her hair around and, blinking at the police officer. And he noticed that she was like fumbling around in the car, the MyBudget logo on her shirt. And he said, do you work for MyBudget? And she goes, oh, yeah, I do. And he goes, you guys got me my sex life back. My wife and I used to fight all the time about money, and now I have a sex life again. So I'm going to let you off. And he let her off. So we even
There
get
you
people's
go.
sex lives
well
back.
done. Now there's a business that you never thought you were going to build.
Exactly.
Very good. Well, where do I sign? That sold me. That's amazing, and we don't condone trying to woo any police officer on this.
No.
So MyBudget's been around 20 odd years now, plus years. I understand April 4th is a special date for you. Is that correct?
April 4th?
Is April 4th the start date?
Do you know what? It could have been the date that I registered the company.
Okay.
Because I just started operating as a sole trader and then I just went, oh, geez, I should really register a company.
I read an article and it said April 4th was your 20
you know
year.
more than me.
Well, so the only reason why I actually pricked my ears up because my birthday is on April 4th, right? So it's like we share an amazing day in history.
We're coming up next year, 25 years.
25 years.
Because the team is saying we need to start thinking about 25 years. What does that look like?
25 years, quarter of a century.
I know. I still only feel 25.
What's the plan for you? Like, is this a forever thing? Because there's this statistic that I read in a book recently that was it? I can't remember where it was. It was 80% of businesses fail in their first 7 years. The next 80% fail. So the next 80% of the remaining 20% fail in the next 5 years following that. So if you think about starting a business, your back's up against the wall.
Yeah.
Do you think that let's think about that as well. A lot of people start business to sell a business as well. So that's their sort of end goal, which is also one of the reasons. Do you think that businesses fail off the back of poor financial management more often than not?
I think it certainly plays a part. And if you had solid financial management, you might have predicted or you could see that you probably needed to pivot in your business and do something different. And maybe it wasn't the right product market fit, or maybe you're spending too much on a particular part of your business, which is not giving you any return.
Yeah.
And you need to divert that spend into growing, getting more clients, or you might need to divert that spend into more support staff or whatever it might be. So I absolutely think solid financial management is the backbone of successful businesses, but it's always I see lots of businesses that are great ideas. They might be a great piece of technology, but it's not priced right or there's no market for it.
Yeah.
People are not going to spend the money on that. And that's such a shame. And I think, God, that's such a good idea. I might like that product, but there's just not enough people to support the expense of running that business. And ultimately, at the end of a day, a business has got to make enough money to pay all its bills.
Yeah.
It's simple math.
Yeah.
And so if you're on top of that, you can you can adjust quickly.
But do you think your success, like where you've grown the business, because you've got 3 businesses now, where you've grown all of them, do you think that is because you have such a keen eye on finance? Like, if we were to compare the pair, right? Like, let's use me. You're CEO, I'm CEO. We're two quite different businesses. I'm in a consulting space. You're in the financial space. My skill set is not in finance at all. Like, my skill set is going out, meeting new people, growing, speaking, chatting, all the above. And hence the reason why sometimes it always feels like we're 3 months away from going bankrupt, right? Like, I think that was an entrepreneur told me that once.
Yes.
He said, when you're growing a business and you're in early scale phase, you always feel like you're 3 months away from growth. But did you have those pains in your early years as well? Because you're so obviously, fixated and have the knowledge from a financial point of view. Did you have those same issues?
100%. I mean, like you're just watching the cash flow every single day. I guess I was always okay with not having to spend too much. I was okay having the secondhand furniture. I was okay with, not having the best of the best, but keeping within our budget so that, and one of the advantages of a business like MyBudget was you can predict the income, which I think makes a huge difference because
You're right.
I can predict with a reasonable degree of certainty what our revenue will be next month and the month after. And when you've been running...
Just based on the subscription type model?
Because it's a subscription model, that's right. And there's a certain amount of upfront fee. We only have 2 fees, that's it.
Yeah.
Upfront, which is paid over time, like the first few months.
Yep.
And then you've got a weekly fee.
Yep.
And clients can cancel at any time. They give 30 days notice and we could lose that revenue. But after a few years, you can predict what your termination rate might be. That's a terrible word, termination.
You're not going to get 100% of the people stopping.
That's right. So then with that, you can make decisions about spend and about headcount and about growth and about investment. And so that was one of the advantages of MyBudget. There's other businesses though, and you touched on it and you said it perfectly. Like, you're the subject matter expert in your business. You're good at consulting. You're good at talking to clients and you're good at growing the business and you're probably good at leading people as well and taking them on the journey. And then it's all the other stuff, supporting stuff that you go, like I have to do with HR. I've got to do the payroll. I've got to do the finances. I've got to speak to my accountant about tax and BAS statements. And you've got to do all of that, and even to a degree, potentially marketing, do I have to, I mean, you're obviously good at that and you lean into that. But so that's where it dawned on me when I started the building business, my home build, that by allowing Gary, who's my business partner, who's the builder, and the building team, just to focus on building houses and giving the best client experience and delivering on all of our promises to our clients. And MyBudget and myself take care of all those supporting services. So
it's like a shared services model.
It's exactly that, a shared services model. Yeah. And you get to, and I think how great for so many people, then you could just focus on your business.
Yeah.
And
it's phenomenal.
And so far, so good. But I think that model can work. And I always thought I would have to enter into a business that was aligned to finances. But, I mean, building is not. And my dad's a builder, so I grew up in the industry. I grew up with tradies at our house every single day. I was always, up until this day, I still help my dad with his business, which he's currently in the process of selling. So I understood the business of building relatively well at a high level. And so it wasn't unfamiliar, but just being able to leave the builders and the trades and
the experts,
the estimators and everybody just to do their job and not have to be bogged down with that makes a big difference.
How do you, just while you're talking about the different businesses, because you got MyBudget loans as well, is that correct?
That's right.
MyBudget loans and My Home Build.
That's right.
Saw one of the utes driving around yesterday. It's which is funny. It's like when you buy a new car, you see it. How I'm just like thinking about management of time, right? And your role as CEO. how do you manage all three? Plus, not to mention the amount of boards you're on, the mentorships that you do, the like, how do you structure your time? And I think you did mention it earlier that you're more out there working on the business, which is great. But for those who are building and still sort of stuck in the weeds a little bit, how do you spend your time working on the business and managing your calendar and your structure of your day?
Well, today it looks very different to where I was when I was growing the business and starting out, because I was putting everything into a process, as I said, into the system, like putting it into our actual core system, and then delegating that. And then that's essentially how I grew the business. And for me today, it's about actually recognizing what my strengths are and what my weaknesses are, and finding people that are better than me. And my job actually is all about having the right people in the right seat, because ultimately I'm not doing the work anymore. Like I could almost say, what do you do at MyBudget? Well, I don't do anything, but I don't do nothing. But because my team are amazing at what they do, and they're delivering on every promise that we make to our clients, whether that be MyBudget or the lending business or the building business. So for me, it's about making sure that the strategy is right, the culture is right, so that the culture is aligning to the strategy, and bringing people on the journey and making sure that we have the right team that's aligned, because, our core values are that we care, make a difference, and financial responsibility. And so making sure that those values are alive and well in the business is really important. And we do that through sharing stories. We do that by leading by example. We do that by in lots of different ways. But that's a core fundamental part of our strategy. Yeah. So I think it's about, for me, on a day-to-day basis, it's keeping my team aligned, focused, disciplined. And there's so many things that you could be saying yes to. And it's actually keeping that list as small as possible and doing those things really well, and identifying what are those things that we need to achieve in the next, where do we want to be in 5 years? What do we need to do in 12 months to get there in 5 years? And what do we need to do in the next 90 days to be there? And say no to everything else. Like, say no.
So an immense amount of discipline. So Gabriella's over there laughing. So my toxic trait is I love shiny new objects, right? Like, so I have always struggled with this, in the fact that it's like I've got a why not attitude. Why not? That makes sense. It's logical.
How hard can it be?
How hard can it be? I'm very optimistic. One of our core values is optimism. The other one's wisdom, and I don't know that I'm that wise every day. But I think like that's the part for me that I really struggle, is like keeping people aligned and keeping people working to this strategy that absolutely we as a team have all created and pulled together. But then there's always that element of in me that I go, well, what if I miss something? What if there's something? What if there's a better way? What if? And how do you maintain the discipline to stick with what you got, or do you constantly reiterate as you move forward?
Well, I think that's the beauty of knowing where you want to be in the long term, having your sort of your targets along the way, but then just being totally focused on the here and the now, because you can pivot as much. You don't have a set plan of how you're going to get to that target in 12 months, but you know what you need to do in the next 90 days. So you can pivot and be agile, and sure, check out the shiny thing. Just do a little bit of analysis. Don't go all in and just say, is this going to work? Is this actually aligning? Is doing this work, or is this idea, is this shiny thing actually helping me get to where I need to be in 5 years, or achieve my BHAG, my big, hairy, audacious goal? And then that helps you make decisions.
So, agreed. And I think if you were to cast your mind back and you said, 5 years, 10 years, understand where you guys want to be, how did you know where you could be? If you look back 20 years ago, did you think you would have 3 different businesses, 230 plus staff working, just for MyBudget alone, a $34 million, turnover revenue? How do you even my brain can't even comprehend where it could go. And I think that's the part that I struggle with the most, is that where is the boundary and where does it stop and how far? Because I'm overly optimistic in everything that I do. And I always think that, well, if I achieve that, why couldn't I do more? Why not? Or why couldn't we do more? And that's, I think I get sucked into that world a lot.
And you can, but you don't want to be sucked in so far that it's delusional.
Yeah.
You want to be, okay, that is realistic that we could have that many clients in a certain amount of times or be in that many regions.
Yeah.
So you want to set goals that maybe you're not even going to be able to reach, but you'll get somewhere close. Like in the early days for me, I wasn't really thinking about too much. Like I wasn't thinking, oh, I'll have this many clients in 10 years. I was actually just thinking, I just need enough clients to pay the rent and I want to help as many people as I possibly can. And it sort of was around that time when I had my daughter where I went, oh, hang on a second. I probably need to start planning things out a bit better. Like I've been flying by the seat of my pants for 3 years just to make ends meet. And, and then it was like, actually I can take a breather now because I've set myself up for being able to do that. And I think that, and if you've got young females that are listening to this podcast, people always say to me, oh, when do you think it's a good time to have kids? Never. There's never a perfect time,
No.
but so you just, whatever suits you in your life and your family, but it's never going to be perfect. So don't expect it to.
Yeah.
And the beauty of me having my elder two when I was younger is I was able to pull myself out of the business so that I replaced myself essentially.
Yeah.
I was like, how am I going to be able to afford to do that? But then I made sure that the time that I spent was really valuable and adding value to the business so that I could keep having the business run without me in there, picking up the phone and talking to clients or seeing clients face to face. I was able to focus on growing the business and helping more people. And that's where I spent my time and energy for the most part in those years, in those formative years of growing the business.
A few questions in there. When's the trigger point though, when you can actually step away? Or is it not that black and white? It's a gradual thing.
It's a gradual thing. And it also depends as well. Like I bootstrapped. So I had to be watching the bottom line.
I'm the same.
Like every single day, every week, every month.
Yeah.
I was doing the finances of our business for the first 12 years personally.
Yeah.
And it was taking days out of the month to reconcile bank accounts and do all the BAS statements. I had to understand because GST came in and all of that. I had to learn that, understand it. And then eventually I got to a point where I had to delegate. I had to delegate that out. And I can't even remember where I was going with this now. I got so caught up in the detail. But what was the question again?
It was about when there was a trigger point.
The trigger point.
Yeah, or if it was a gradual. And it's obviously a gradual thing.
For me, it was gradual. But if you've got an investor, you might
that's
have the ability to be able to put people on, run at a loss for a while, and then eventually pay the investor back and some. So it just depends. And that strategy works. And if you've got a business that's capital intensive, you're probably not going to have the money to be able to fund it. You may, but so you're going to have to learn to raise money. You're going to be distracted by, having to manage those stakeholders, learn how to do your pitch. And it's a whole different ballgame, but it's just a different strategy than the one that I took. And I took that strategy because I didn't know any different. I wouldn't have had a clue how to raise money.
I'm almost in the same boat, right? Bootstrapping, gradual thing. We're at the point now as a business with that middle tier, and we got some really amazing leaders coming in, which is fantastic. And I feel like the path of being able to step away is one that is probably going to be very welcomed by a lot of the people in the business. Another thing that you mentioned in there was obviously doing all this while managing a family. I mean, one question that I always ask on this show, or quite regularly ask, is how do we fully pursue and realize our visions whilst trying to maintain those loving relationships? And how did you do that? How did you grow and scale your business while you were, 3 years into your business and you had your children? Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, it's always a balance. And sometimes the business will demand more of you and you have to give more of your time and energy there. And then other times your family are demanding more time and energy and you have to give time there. It's always a juggle, and there's no perfect answer. There's no right or wrong necessarily. But I think what helped me manage that was giving up this idea that everything had to be perfect, that I had to be the perfect leader, the perfect CEO, had to be the perfect wife, had to be the perfect mum, had to be the perfect friend. When I gave up that idea that it was okay to make mistakes, it was okay to not be the absolute best, and actually it was better just to be great, to be a great leader, to be a great mum, to be a great friend, and be a little bit forgiving on myself when I made mistakes and go, I'm doing all of these things and I'm happy being great. I don't have to be perfect, because when you're trying to be perfect all the time, you tend to burn out and you're stressed out. And when you're trying to be perfect at everything, probably nothing is actually perfect. And so it's that moment of just forgiving yourself if you make mistakes. And because it's normally us who are putting the most pressure on ourselves. It's certainly for me, because I don't have other investors, it's always me putting the pressure on myself. I remember once leaving work to go get my kids from school, and I was on a phone call and I just drove home, and I was like, oh my God, I left work to pick up my kids. I forgot about them straight away and just went into autopilot on a call, drove home, and I'm like, worst mum. Like, who forgets to pick up their kids? Like I did. And then it was like quickly scrambling, making a phone call to another parent saying, can you wait with the kids till I get there? I'm on my way. But, you just got to go get that thought out of your mind. You're doing the best that you can. You're not a shit parent.
Yeah.
You just forgot because you got all these other things on. It's about letting yourself go a little bit and saying, don't be so hard on yourself, because nobody's perfect and you shouldn't try and be perfect. And that's hard to give that up, because you're competitive. You want to be the best at everything. I want to be at every single thing at the school, but it's not realistic to be able to do that. So pick and choose, that's really important to me. So I'm making the time to be at my kids' sports days. I love sport. They love sport. I think it's really important. I never missed one of my kids' sports days. I just put them in the diary and that's it. No meetings. I'll move everything to be there. Other things, if they're doing something else at the school or they're going on an excursion to somewhere that doesn't really interest me, I might not go.
Yeah.
I definitely won't go.
Yeah.
But I'm not beating myself up about that.
Yeah. I think it's a good philosophy. I think I fall into the trap of wanting to be very present as a father. So I try to attend most things, and sometimes to the detriment of what else I'm trying to do. Do you know what I mean? Like you would have seen this 1,000 times. You speak with entrepreneurs, you speak with business leaders, and you would have heard the story 1,000 times over and over, where someone's on their deathbed and they look back and they're going, I wish I spent more time with your family.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm trying to do that, but yet I get caught up in this world of, it's actually taking me away from something else I love as well. So it's finding that right balance.
And what's right for you might not be right for me.
Yeah.
I might be okay with working full time as a mum. Someone else might not be okay with that, and that's okay too. It's just finding what's right for you and not looking over your shoulder and going, well, what are they doing? Are they going to judge me because I'm doing this?
Yeah. Comparisons the root of all evil.
And I think you're absolutely right. Like at the end of the day, you've got to invest time in your children and in your relationships and with your friendships and with your family. You can't be all things all in on one thing. Like absolutely, it takes a lot of your time and energy, but you have to carve a little bit out for the rest of your life. And for me, it's literally putting the stuff in my diary and just saying that's it. If it's in the diary, that's what I'm doing.
I'm with you though. Like you were saying earlier. You traffic and you've forgotten about your parents. I was thinking at that time when you were telling that story, I often, if I'm not working, especially Monday to Friday, Saturday, Sunday is a bit different, but I do pick up the laptop on those days. But if I am not working, I'm feeling very guilty that I'm not putting time and effort to keep on continuing to create. So I'm really in this mindset of the moment of trying to, I don't know if you know, like thinking time. Everyone says you've got to stop and you've got to have time to think and reflect and write and journal and all the above. Do you manage yourself in that way? Do you manage your, how do you go away and be creative? How do you stop from the hustle and bustle of podcasts and media and marketing and sales and leading teams and strategy and just stop and concentrate on what is most important?
I think like yourself, I don't like to waste a minute of time because it's precious. Time is the most valuable thing that we have. So if even on the weekends, if I'm home, I'm like, okay, right, well, I better be cooking and getting food ready for the week so that I'm organised. But to your point, how do I do that? I set my alarm and I get up and I do my exercise. And for me, that's a form of meditation because I'm concentrating on whatever it is I might be doing, whatever type of exercise that is. And then we have a sauna and I like going in the sauna a couple of nights a week. So before I go to bed and thinking and listening and just being. And I love getting massages. Yeah. That's one of the reasons I like going to Bali because you can
one
pay.
Person who doesn't. Yeah.
and I find that time is really good thinking time.
Yeah. Okay.
As long as it's not too hard, then you can't think about anything but the pain.
Like nice, soft. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, So, and I don't do that very often, but I find that time I'm coming up with new ideas and thinking about things, and I'm forcing myself actually because if I had that hour free, I'd probably be doing something that I consider productive. I'm all about getting stuff done, you know. Yeah. But if I carve that time out, I can think and reflect and come up with ideas. And then I love traveling, and I come up with some great things when I'm outside the office and I'm in a different environment. I'm seeing different things, and it's contributing to my knowledge base. And I'm seeing the way that other people are doing things, and I'm like. And collaborating with other business owners and talking about what they're doing. It's not just about, getting stuff done and being productive. It's also that learning, I suppose.
Continuous improvement.
Yeah.
If you and we talked about culture before and how important you believe, and I kind of want to swing back in, but I want to segue slowly to the culture aspect where if you were to explain or if you were to get into the minds of all your team, 230 people plus in your team, how would they describe you as a CEO?
How would the team describe me? I think, if I was to describe myself, I would say that I was intentional and strategic. I don't know that my team would know that that's how I am because they probably don't see the stuff I'm doing as strategic, but it's keeping them aligned, talking about the clients, that's hugely important. Yeah. Keeping everyone on the same page, making sure that we're not saying yes to things that we shouldn't be saying yes to and all of that. So I think they would see me as courageous. As in I'm prepared to get up there and fight for what's right. I'm prepared to break rules if they make no sense. And I don't mean, break the law. Yep. But if I will challenge something if it doesn't make sense to me. I'm really pragmatic. I probably think, in fact, that's probably the word, that I'm a real pragmatic leader. I don't have my head real in the clouds. Yeah. But I can see the future and I can map a path to that future, and I make practical decisions. I weigh everything up, and I'm fair and tough but fair. I expect a lot. I don't want any freeloaders on the bus. Yeah, we're like the Fred Flintstones. Yeah. We're all pedaling, right? We got to all get there together, and we got to be all doing that. But I also understand that people make mistakes, and everything's not perfect. And so I'd say that they would say that I'm a fair leader. But also tough.
So to follow up that question, given that we've spoken about family, what would your children and your husband say about you? Would it be similar?
I think so. I think they would say that I'm loving and kind. Probably a bit cheeky.
What do you want them to say about you? I think like this is kind of one thing that's quite relevant to me lately is my daughter's almost hitting teen years, still a year or two away, but I feel like the hormones are shifting. And one day she hates me, but the next day, she'll say something like, Dad, if I ever get married to someone, I want them to be similar to you. And you go, that's the world's greatest compliment, right? So
Yeah.
what would you want them to say about you?
I think I would want them to say that they knew how much I love for them and cared for them. And at the end of the day, everything that I'm doing ultimately is to create a great life for them and also for our clients. That I would want them to say that the work that I did or I do is making a big difference in the community.
It's impacting.
And that the community wouldn't be the same. It would be worse off if the work that the team does and that we do at MyBudget wasn't happening. And so I'd want them to see that I'm not working for the sake of working. I'm working to create a better life for them, but a better life for tens of thousands of people through the work that we do at MyBudget. And that is a privilege to be able to do that.
Was that always your purpose?
I always, whatever I wanted to do, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I just knew I wanted to help people.
Yeah.
I'm motivated by seeing a shift in people's lives and seeing
the light bulb moment.
Yeah, I feel like that's my guilty pleasure.
Yeah.
Seeing other people do really well, because do you know how good that feels to know that you've transformed or you're about to transform someone's life?
Yeah.
It's better than any feeling I think that you can get is to go, wow. It's like, when you give a gift, you feel really good.
Yeah.
When you go, oh, here's your birthday present, you actually feel good about giving that gift. And I feel that's what we do at MyBudget every day for our clients.
Have you ever thought about so MyBudget is in essence almost working with people to help solve mental health issues, right? Like if you think about suicide, and I think I read statistically 3 people die per day. I don't know where, it might be a worldwide thing, but on the back of the fact that they've had money and all financial issues, right?
Yeah.
So in actual fact, you're saving lives in a roundabout way.
Absolutely.
Have you seen stories of that?
I have seen lots of stories of that. And one that comes to mind is when I was in Melbourne. I was walking down Buckley Street in Essendon where our office was, and a client saw me and came over and she wrapped her arms around me. She started crying and she just said, I just need you to know that you saved my life. I have 2 boys and they would never have seen their mum again had I not come in and had the appointment 2 years ago with MyBudget, and you saved my life and my kids have a mum today because of MyBudget. And
that's phenomenal. I'm getting goosebumps.
I know, me too. And I hear that, I read the stories. We have we call it the Life Changer Chat.
Yep.
Internal in our business, where as staff are hearing stories, they share it on the Life Changer Chat. And a lot of those are life-saving stories because finances can be really stressful and it can impact your mental health. And there's this idea that you must be a failure if you're not doing well with your finances, but that is not the case. It doesn't define who you are, as neither does how much you earn or how many assets you have. None of those things define whether you're a good person or not. And I think there's a lot of shame that comes with finances and money if you're not doing as well as what you think you should be, and therefore, impacts your mental health. So I 100% believe that we're shifting the mental health issues in the right direction with the work that we do, with at least taking that that worry away from people.
Do you like going back to culture, and culture is some describe is the thing that people do when no one's looking, and I think if you've got this connection to purpose, is that something that you put front and center to everyone? Is like, actually mentally we're saving people here, we're not only helping them get their life back on track financially, but we're also helping them get their life back on track mentally.
Yeah, 100%. We have core value champions. So we are recognizing and rewarding our team when they act in alignment with our values. But I think it's that connection to purpose is why we have such an amazing team. People come into our office and they walk around, and when you just listen to any call or someone speaking to a client, what you will hear is someone really caring, someone really trying to make a difference for that person whilst teaching financial responsibility. And we like, people will say it's kind of like a cult here. Yeah. Like, what have you got in the water? It's a bit like a cult. Like, I know that when I interviewed for this role, that's what you said it would be like, but it's actually really like that. Like, once you're in, and if you don't fit the culture, you stick out like a sore thumb, and you don't generally last, and that's okay, because I don't expect everybody is all the same and everybody would fit our culture. And I've had people that have come that have had fantastic skill sets, but what I realised is you can't teach someone to care. No. And we don't just care about our clients, we care about each other. So there's zero tolerance to any behaviour that isn't in alignment with our policy. There's a no wanker policy. No. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to swear.
No,
on this.
You're fine. All good. So your role as a CEO, you said before, keep people aligned, keep strategy in check, making sure we're connecting to purpose, bringing in the right talent to be able to, the right people on the bus and make sure they fit their culture. What do you do as a leader to maintain the culture in the business? What do you see is your job? Is it front and center, is like, I need to do work to fix the culture, or is it just habitually you do things which create the culture that you desire?
Well, I think a lot of it, the culture happens in the conversations and the stories that we tell, and in our training and in our recruitment. Me personally, I do, when I go back to the office this afternoon, I'll do my staff video, and I do one of those every fortnight. And in those videos, there's generally a couple of shout outs to employees that have done, awesome things. But I finish every single one of those without fail with a note from a client. And we get lots of those through, and I'll read it out and I'll go, and then I'll finish every single video and I'll say, and guys, that is why we're all here. This is why we do what we do, because of that story that I've just shared. And it's actually you guys doing that. Every single one of you guys are doing that. You're having the conversation. If you work in our technology team, you're building the technology that these clients use to change their life. And this is the outcome. I mean, you should all go home and feel so proud and privileged, because not everybody gets to do a job where they can go home feeling like they've just made a big difference in someone's life. Even if it's one person, it could be 10,000, but even if it's one person. And so you're really privileged and lucky to do that. And I'm privileged and lucky to have you working at MyBudget doing that. And this is the result that we get. So that's one of the things that I do, because I just think I am so lucky. Like, I'm so fortunate to do what I do every single day and to contribute something, because that's what I want to do. I don't want to feel like I'm wasting my time selling something to someone who doesn't really need it. Perhaps it's even bad for them. I don't want to be doing that. And it's okay. That's what people do, because someone's got to do it. But that's not what motivates me. I wouldn't feel good about myself every day, and I want to be able to feel good. Every night I sleep like a baby. Yeah. I get into bed, I put my head on the pillow, and I sleep like a baby. And I think I'm really fortunate to be able to do that, and so are all my team.
Yeah. That's amazing. And kudos to you and the team for all the amazing work that you're doing. I know, and so do you, that entrepreneurship and leadership and running a business and all the above, it has its ups and downs. It is one day you could have the best day, and on the very same afternoon it could turn into the worst day, right? Like it's pretty situational. And in May 2020, MyBudget suffered from a malware attack, which I think, from what I understand, prevented people being able to access their money. Is that correct?
So clients could always access their money.
Yep.
Clients' money and information and everything was 100% safe.
Yep.
What actually happened was our system got locked down.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to then rebuild parts of our entire system. So some parts were working fine.
Yeah, wow.
And the part where you could access your money was 100. You just couldn't access it through the app because our app was down. So you had to ring us.
Okay. So I mean, that, you know, and you've said customer service, you've said all these things are fundamental to the way you guys manage business. Something like that makes me feel sick in my stomach.
It was.
How did you manage that as a leader and as a team? And what exactly happened was?
So, well, essentially, there was a password breach.
Yeah.
So everyone started working from home. There was a password breach.
May 20,
they were able to get into our system and lock the core system down. So, of course, like everybody, we have backups and copies, but we have to get everything back up and running. So we didn't lose one piece of data. We didn't lose anything fundamentally, but we were offline for our core system for 5 days.
Ouch.
So we were doing everything manually. So it looked like the New York Stock Exchange. Clients would ring in and we'd write their BSB and account number down, and we'd hold the piece of paper up and someone would come and grab the paper. And then we had up in our finance area, we had someone set up for the Commonwealth Bank, NAB, Westpac, and we're just doing everything manually. So we just didn't have the automated.
In a world where you're supposed to be working from home.
In a world where you're supposed to be working from, thank God, COVID was not bad in Adelaide, and it was okay for us to all be working in the office.
Yeah.
For me, I just went straight into problem-solving mode and communicating with the clients.
Yeah.
So I faced it head-on with videos to the clients twice a day, every day, to keep everybody informed. 1, your money is completely safe. 2, we're running things manually for now, but we're going to get our system back up and running, and it will happen. I just can't tell you when, and I'm hoping it'll be in the next 24, 48 hours, and by day 5 we got it back up and running. It was scary, but I knew that there was a path out, and I think when you've built up a trust bank with your clients, like think about all the conversations we've had.
Yeah.
We've changed people's lives. That trust bank is what got us through. Yeah. And we lost a handful of clients through that. Yeah. Probably clients that maybe were going to leave anyway for one reason or another. But because we had that trust bank, I mean, we dipped heavily into it, and it's probably the worst thing that's ever happened in my life and in the business's life. I was more concerned about the clients, making sure that they knew that they can access their money, that their bills are being paid, and this is just temporary. This is just temporary. And we run these PD days every year, whole company, and and we always have clients. We do a client panel, and I interview them and ask them questions, and our customer service team gets asked questions. The whole company can ask them questions. And one of the questions from one of our staff members was, how did you feel during the hack? And she goes, she'd been a client for 15 years. And she goes, what hack? I didn't even know there was one. So there were still clients that, because if you didn't access, everything happens in the background.
Correct, yeah.
So you get your living expenses, and they all still went through. Some clients didn't even really realise. But it was really, we were one of the first to get hit. I mean, people are getting hit all the time, and touch wood, it's...
No, well, this is a big part of the reason why, I'm asking you, is because cybersecurity at the moment is on the
needs to be front and centre.
Front of mind of everyone.
And it needs to be the number one, if not number one, number 2 thing on your risk register. And as a CEO, or if you're on a board, you can't just say this is a thing for the IT team.
Correct. Department. Yeah. And it's not a matter of if, it's when now, isn't it?
Exactly. It's you can be as secure as you think you possibly are, but generally speaking, when things like this happen, it's due to human error. And that's what happened in our case. And you can have the best systems, the best technology, the best processes, but if a human makes a mistake, which we do,
no doubt, and it's an unintentional mistake.
Unintentional,
and I think
100%.
We've had I think you know him, Mohan Koo, on the show.
Oh yes,
yeah, and so you know his thought process is that's where the majority of issues occur is with the almost complacency that creeps in with some of this stuff. So
exactly, and then the way in which you store your data as well. And there is a whole raft of things that you need to be doing as a business, and as a CEO or a board member, you need to know the right questions to ask. Have we got all of these things in place? Do we have two-factor? There's like 7 steps, and the cybersecurity collaboration center have got all of these resources that you can access, and you just need to then ask the questions, do we have all of these things in place? I mean, we're running cyber training every single fortnight. We use an automated system and you learn so much by doing that, because things are changing all the time. You've got the email fraud that's happening to everybody, the texting, the phone calls, there's all sorts.
How did you manage your emotions during that time? I mean, that is, as like you said, it's probably the worst thing that's happened to you. How were you in that time?
I mean, like you, I'm optimistic. I err to being optimistic. And so I think I just went into solution mode. I just went into, right, let's map out what we need to do. Who are the stakeholders? I mean, the South Australian business community was sensational. And what I mean by that is we're rebuilding our entire technology stack at the moment. So for the most part, all of our technology support is building the new, and we have the old where we've got a couple of people keeping the lights on. I had to call on about 8 of the team that actually built the system for me in the first place to come in and help rebuild the system.
Yeah, wow.
So I was ringing CEOs and saying, could I borrow Steve for a couple of days? It might be a day, it could be 2. Someone got a special permit and drove from Queensland, drove to Adelaide, and then there was a guy called Mars who worked for me for 10 years. He was in IT infrastructure, and he came and helped. There was a bunch of guys that all just came in. So the businesses let their staff leave and go and help us. Because we were processing everything manually, we had a bunch of stuff to catch up with on the 5 days to enter into our system.
Yeah.
I had about 40 ex-customer service employees who just came in and worked the Saturday and Sunday for us. Because our system is unique. I can't teach you how to use it within a few hours. So all these staff that were already trained, that have moved on to other jobs and doing other things, maybe they had babies or they came in and they did the work. It was absolutely incredible the way that everybody rallied, and there was so much support in the community for us. And I think it wasn't for me, it wasn't for the staff, it was for our clients. Because people who worked at MyBudget before know what a difference we're making and what would happen if we no longer existed. And so everybody rallied together, and I was just so grateful for everybody that it came in and helped. And I was dealing with the insurers and, dealing with the technology team and trying to make decisions about stuff I don't know a lot about. And but we got there, and I was just like, phew, I'm just so glad that is over.
Well, I mean, what an amazing accomplishment to have people who have left the company to come back who are still bought into the cause, right? Like it just goes to show that you are doing something worth its weight in gold. Yeah,
and I just want to quickly mention that Mars, he is married and he's got a 3-year-old, and it was the Saturday night after so it was 5 days down, we got the system back up and running on the Friday night. And the Saturday night, we had all the servers up and running, and there was just a few of us left in the office. It was probably about 11:30 on the Saturday night. And we're like, well, what if this goes down overnight? Like, I don't know how to turn it. I don't know what to do here, how to turn it on. And Mars, he's a big guy. He's like does bodybuilding and he's tall and he's got really wide shoulders. And he goes, don't worry, I'll sleep here. I go, he hasn't worked at MyBudget for 5 years. Yeah. He's got a wife, a child at home. It's a Saturday night. He said, no, I'll sleep here. I go, where are you going to sleep? He goes, I'll sleep on the floor. And I go, are you I said, no way. I'm at least going to get the cushions from upstairs, because there was actually no point me staying there because I wouldn't know what to do if nothing happened.
Yeah.
But Mars slept in our office.
Yeah. Well done, Mars. Shout out to Mars.
Shout out to Mars if you're listening.
That's brilliant. It's just before, I think we're conscious of time. I'm just going to round up with a couple of questions before we move into some quick fire questions. You've achieved so much in your life. You've got awards coming out at the wazoo, right? Like you've women of influence, entrepreneur awards, you name it, you've won it. What do you think your secret sauce is? What do you think has been critical to your success? And if you were giving advice to someone who's looking to grow their career as a leader or an entrepreneur, what advice would you give them?
I would probably say it's passion, like being passionate about what it is that you do, because it's so easy to just want to give up or just go, this is too hard, or what am I doing this for? I'm not getting to my kids' sport, and why am I actually doing this? So my advice to other aspiring entrepreneurs would be, of course, the business has to make sense. There has to be a good product market fit. It needs to be financially viable. But make sure whatever it is that you're doing, you're passionate about, because it's not going to be easy. And as that book, The E-Myth, The Entrepreneurial Myth, says, it's not about becoming your own boss. It's a lot harder than that. And you're probably going to work harder than you ever have, earn less than what you were before. So just make sure that you're passionate and you believe in what it is that you're doing, because that is the thing that's going to help you get through the difficult times.
Keep going. Correct. It's the hardest thing is to start, and the first hardest thing is to start. The second hardest thing is to not quit.
Exactly.
We've had a great friend of yours on the show, Kelly.
Yes,
Jameson.
She's an amazing woman. I'm very lucky to call her a friend.
She is. Edible Blooms, shout out to them. They're doing some wonderful stuff. She's a big advocate for women in entrepreneurship and in business. Do you share the same passion as her?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, women supporting women is so important. And I have a team of 70% women, 30% men. And I think men and women together have different strengths and different weaknesses. And I think when it comes to women really need the support to really realize that they're awesome and that they can do a lot more in some cases than what they think they can. And it can be these limiting beliefs. But I think men and women are both incredible. But I think there's a lot of work to be done to help women get to the positions of leadership, positions of power, to get started, to get funding. Women receive a really minuscule amount of the seed funding, of venture capital. Why that is, I don't know. But I do know that women actually are, if you look at the research, women are a really great investment. So they're going to return on your dollar invested in a female or co-founded or founded business. They're going to return 100% more.
Yeah, it's amazing statistics behind that, isn't it?
There just needs to be more of them.
Yeah.
And so Kelly and I and a couple of other women have created a network called the Fearless Females. Yeah. And the idea behind that is to create an ecosystem of support for women, because sometimes that's all it is that you need.
Yeah.
And so we started that about, I would say it's 12 months ago. And that is really there to help foster and build that ecosystem for women. So you've got someone that you can talk to or that you can run things by. That because a lot of the time you might just be working with men.
Yeah.
And you don't feel safe for whatever reason to share or be vulnerable. That's the idea of the fearless females.
So it's Paulette's in there as well.
Paulette, yep.
Courts. Who else is in that group?
Anna Diamond.
Yeah. She's the jewelry
Kelly,
brand,
Jenny Paradiso, Suntrix Solar, Melissa Labrandy, and she's the general manager of News. And then Marilla Tambakis, who
Peregrine.
she's at Peregrine. That's right. Yeah, and she's also ran her own multiple businesses over the years.
Some amazing humans in there. Get on board. How do people find out about Fearless Females?
Just jump onto Facebook or jump online and find out more. The idea of Fearless Females is actually for you to use the model and create your own Fearless Female group.
Great.
And we help facilitate that.
Yep.
But you drive that because the group, you don't want to be too big because...
No, and you don't want it to be always changing. And
that's right.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
No, very good. Excellent. I do want to ask you a question, though, which is around young females. And just given that I'm a father of two young aspiring entrepreneurs. And I say that because my daughters just had the career day at school and they both went as an entrepreneur.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
But you know what their reasoning was I could dress as whatever I want if I go as an entrepreneur. So, which is quite funny. But they printed these tags and it said entrepreneur on their shirt, which was quite funny. But I want to just talk as a father and as a male figure in their life, my role. One thing that I do notice is even just conversations around, my girls play basketball too, right? Even just conversations around, making the Division 2 team. They're in Div 3 at the moment, making the Division 2 team next year. My daughter's attitude is, I'm not good enough. I don't think I'm good enough. And she's got this immense amount of self-doubt. And I'm trying to help educate and grow mindset to say, hey, listen, but what if you are, right? Like, what if we work hard and we get there? And so, trying to develop that. But I just remember as a child being a young boy, a young kid, I was just like, that's just a no-brainer. I mean, Div 2, what do you mean? Div 1's where I can play. Like, it was a completely different mindset. So I guess my question to you is, as a father, what would your suggestion be to help, and any other father that's listening in who has young daughters, how do we help nurture their mindset from an early age so that they have this mentality of being a fearless female?
Well, firstly, I want to say well done to you for firstly thinking about this, but already having those types of conversations with your daughters and telling them. I think it comes down to just telling them that they can be anything they want to be, and they're the only person that will hold themselves back. And I'll just share a story because I like to share stories. But when I was growing up, I had my brother Josh, and when my mum was pregnant with Josh, my dad was like, I hope it's a boy, so then I can go and kick the footy and, he can be a builder like me. And then obviously Josh had Angelman syndrome. And my dad then drilled into us three girls. He's like, I cannot believe that I was saying I wanted to have a boy. Actually, what I wanted to have was a healthy child. And it doesn't matter if you're a boy or a girl. You girls can do whatever you want. Tammy, if you want to be a professional basketballer, you can be a professional basketballer. You want to be Prime Minister? You can be Prime Minister. You don't need to be – and you're going back now, 40 years, 35 years ago.
When it was less of an option, yeah.
Yeah, well, when people weren't having those types of conversations with young women. And so I just had this mindset, I could do anything I wanted to. If I wanted to be a builder like my dad, why couldn't I be a builder like my dad? I didn't have any limiting beliefs. So my advice is keep doing what you're doing. Sounds like you're doing an amazing job, and just keep reminding your daughters that they can be anything they want to be. Yes, it's going to take work. Like, you're not going to get into the Div 2 team if you're not out there practicing your shooting after school every afternoon.
Correct.
But you put in the work, you can do it. Don't believe that you can't do it, because as Henry Ford says, if you believe you believe you can, you can. If you believe you can't, you can't.
Yeah.
And that's so true.
Correct.
Because if you believe you can't, you're not going to be able to do it.
Absolutely.
Isn't it? You can't believe. You see, at least have to start with believing you can, even though maybe you can't.
Correct. I think, 100%. And there's that optimism piece, right? It's about setting goals. But thank you. That's amazing. I'm going to just shoot off some quick fire questions before we jump into them. If you could, I'm changing this up a bit, Gabs. I don't know if because you were away in the last podcast, but looking forward is this new segment that I kind of want to bring in before these quick fire questions, but they're supposed to be quick as well. If you could do it all again, what would you do differently?
I learnt so much from all the mistakes. The only thing I probably would have done is I probably would have just skipped straight to advertising and marketing my business in a different way.
Yeah.
Because that made a huge difference and I didn't get it right at first.
What excites you about the future?
I think that we're living in the best time there has ever been. Everything excites me about the future. I see young people like your daughters going to. I didn't know what the word entrepreneur was when I was their age. Yeah. I'm
they got asked by everyone, what does entrepreneur mean?
Good on them. I'm so proud of them, and they're your kids.
Yeah, they had to explain.
I'm excited about all the possibilities, and I see the young generation coming through. And I know there's a lot of talk about them being lazy and this and that. I don't see that. I see them being absolutely passionate and driven by a cause, and I think they're going to make the world a better place. So I'm excited about all the endless possibilities, but in particular about all the young people coming through, because I just think they are amazing and they are the future. I think it was Stevie Wonder who said that.
Beautiful. What are you reading right now?
A book called Outlive by Dr. Peter Attia.
Yeah, that 17-hour book you were
It's a
telling me.
17-hour book. It's a big book, but I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah.
I have a keen interest in, health and well-being because you've got to look after yourself first and make sure that you're functioning and you're firing on all cylinders. And I don't know everything. I'm not even close to knowing everything, but the more I can learn, the better I can be, so I can live out my life being as healthy as possible. There's no point living to 80 or 90 years old and I'm in a wheelchair or I can't walk or I can't play with my grandchildren or great-grandchildren. What's the point?
Agreed. So Outlive by?
Dr. Peter Attia.
Peter Attia, great. I think you've mentioned this numerous times. What's one self-development book that stands out of the rest? You've mentioned E-Myth. Is there anything else that you would add to that?
I wouldn't necessarily call E-Myth self-development.
Non-fiction, yeah.
I like How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
That's the book that changed my life.
Yeah, it can change it's for everybody, whereas the E-Myth is really for entrepreneurs or business owners starting out.
Yeah.
Whereas everybody can benefit from reading How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yeah. I think when I say, it's old school, right?
Yeah.
But when I say it changed my life, I think the realization that I got from that book was that I can actually influence others and the way they think, and not manipulate, but I can influence, right? So
absolutely.
It was a big lesson for me. So on that, what's one lesson that's taking you the longest to learn?
Well, there's a few. I think, just I have to constantly remind myself that looking after myself is really important, and it's not selfish to be taking an hour every day and doing exercise, and just because it's so easy to go, I'm not going to do that because I really need to do this.
Yeah.
So I think it's just constantly pulling myself back into line and being disciplined and doing the things that I promise myself that I'll do. Because it's so easy to just,
I'm going to echo that, but I don't think I've learnt that.
I'm not crazy. It doesn't mean you go crazy. Like last night, I had a cooking class. It was pasta. It was amazing with Italian red wine. But I'm not going to do that every single night. But I'm not going to say no when it's right there in front of me either.
I think I could, though. I could. Nothing like a pasta and a wine. If you could have coffee with one historical or current figure, who would it be?
Well, we mentioned her name earlier, Oprah.
Yeah.
I just think she is an absolute legend. She's
Game
so
changer.
wise. She's amazing.
Yeah. Love it.
Or Michael Jordan.
Oh, MJ.
I just think just because he is such a legend, I don't think he's the nicest bloke, but I mean, he achieved more than anybody has.
Yeah.
And I just watched the
Last Dance.
the new one with Ben Affleck and it's got Jason Bateman, and it's about when Jordan gets his contract with Nike.
Oh, yes.
That's sensational.
Is it?
Yeah.
What's that on?
It's
Is that
on
there?
Amazon.
Amazon. Okay.
Yeah.
I've got Amazon. I think I've got everything. It's ridiculous. It's stupid.
It's
Anyway.
got Matt Damon in it, but it's not about Jordan. It's about the business side of
That's the
how
best.
he got the
Well,
Nike.
Phil Knight's memoirs, Shoe Dog. Have you read that?
I haven't, but
It's a phenomenal story. Great story.
Yeah.
I would recommend that. Anyway, we're digressing. What's some of the best advice that you've ever received?
and we've touched on this as well, and it's not that someone gave me this advice. I read this advice,
Yep.
which is
It's fine.
work on your business and not in the
Not in it,
business.
yeah.
Spend at least a portion of your time working on the business.
Great.
So I think that was really good advice for me.
100%. What habit holds you back the most?
Habit. I mean, like you, I can be easily distracted. I mean, you're saying you're the shiny things.
Yeah.
I can be easily distracted. So doing in something that just feels good or looks good, or I've got to get this done, but a friend says, "Oh, shall we just quickly go and have a wine?" Or I can be distracted.
Yeah. Is that saying yes? Is that saying yes the habit?
Sometimes.
Mm.
I've gotten a lot better at saying no.
Yeah, I think you said no to this podcast about 6 times. No,
I didn't. I just postponed it.
you didn't even respond, I think. Anyway, let's not go there. What's your biggest pet peeve?
When people don't do the things they say they're going to do,
Yeah.
that really irritates me. Just do what you said you're going to do. It's not that hard.
Yeah, don't be a jerk. Just do it, yeah. If you could pay someone to do all of your chores, to do one of your chores, which one would you choose?
I don't know. Probably like doing the dishes.
Yeah,
It's
the worst.
it's just, I don't know,
get
time
sort back
wasting.
every time.
Yeah.
I would choose my finances, funnily enough. Anyway.
I know someone for that.
Do you? Excellent. We'll talk later. What's one word?
Actually, one thing I don't like doing is like letting people go, even when it's the best for them. Like if I could pay someone, not that I'm very lucky. I have rarely,
yeah.
but the times I have had to have those conversations, even when you're coming from a place of giving really constructive feedback and wanting the best for that person, it's just always a difficult conversation.
Oh, it's the sickening feeling in this something. I hate it. It's the worst.
It's not good.
No, I agree. What's one word that you absolutely hate? I love this question.
Well, I'm not going to say it, but the C word.
Oh,
I just
yeah.
think, come on.
Yeah.
Like, is it really that bad to use that word?
There's-
Or calling someone that is just like, I just hate that.
Different level. What's the first thing that you would do if you became invisible?
I would probably listen in on some powerful people's conversations.
Oh, it's a boring answer.
It's so boring. I mean, I probably should have given it some thought.
No, that's a good answer.
No, I mean, look, if I could,
You're getting insight. This is a good answer.
yeah, especially those that aren't
How are you gonna get in?
doing good in the world, right? So you could listen in, understand their strategy, and be 2, 3, 10 steps ahead of them, and do better in the world.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I know that's boring. I'm sorry.
No, that's good. I like it. What's the most useless talent that you have?
Useless talent. Card tricks. I can
yeah?
do card tricks.
Can you really?
It's pretty useless, but sometimes.
No, it's not. It's entertainment. It's not useless. We'll see some after. All right. And last one, your best mum joke. Like, shit joke.
Oh my God, I don't have any. Like,
None.
I just don't think I'm funny. And like, I'm off the cuff joking around, but I don't really have any funny jokes.
No shit jokes.
No shit jokes. I'm
you've let me
sorry.
down. No worries
I
at
should
all.
have told you just don't
Cut
ask me that one.
No, it's all good. Look, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me.
I was so excited about getting you on, just given all that you've achieved and the role that you play in society. Obviously, one of Australia's most influential entrepreneurs. So, kudos to you and your career. Kudos to the work that you and the team are doing. You are having impact on people's lives. You are turning people's lives around, both financially and mentally. So, hats off to you and for everything that you guys are doing. I'm super excited about seeing all that you achieve moving forward. I'll be a fanboy on the side, waving the flag. So keen to keep catching up and connect. And how can anyone connect with you if they want to?
They can connect with me on socials or on LinkedIn. So absolutely. And I just want to thank you as well for doing this podcast. It's amazing. You're awesome at it, and wish you all the best with your business as well. And it's people like you sharing knowledge that's helping others. And I think that's really awesome. We've just started a podcast at MyBudget.
Yes, sorry, let's give that a plug.
But my money, my story. So it's our client stories about their money journey, which a lot of people can relate to. But doing a podcast isn't easy, especially when you're the interviewer. Like, you have to really concentrate on what the other person is saying and keep it flowing. And I think we take it for granted as a listener. Yeah. When you hear, people interviewing on podcasts, it's a real talent, and you do a great job. So well done. Today just flowed really naturally and super well. So you should be proud of yourself.
Couldn't have a better compliment. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you, everyone. We'll catch you next time. Take care. Thanks for listening to the podcast all. You can check out the show notes if there was anything of interest to you, and find out more about us at synergyiq.com.au. I am going to ask though, if you did like the podcast, it would absolutely mean the world to me if you could subscribe, rate and review. And if you didn't like it, that's all right too. There's no need to do anything. Take care, guys. All the best.